5 years ago, I had the sense that I wanted to get away and meditate for like a week. It was like this burning desire, and I didn't have a history of meditating. Not much, a little bit, but I had never done it in any kind of a formal way. And yet it seemed somehow imperative. Did I listen to that? I wish I could tell you I did. But maybe I don't, actually, because what happened then was that I had a whole body awakening. So I lost the use of my arms and legs and neck because the pain to use them was excruciating. And I went to every possible therapist. I got all kinds of diagnostics, from cubital tunnel syndrome and an instability in my neck and an irregular neurological exam. And yet nobody could really help me with treatment. I'm Kristen Collier, and I'm a writer and a coach supporting people in finding their ever-present wellspring of joy. That was not a very joyful intro, but I didn't tell you the important thing, which is that I then discovered Dr. Joe Dispenza. So, as kind of a last resort, my posture therapist, I went to acupuncture, I went to naturopath, I went to Chinese medicine, I went to allopathic, I went everywhere. Anyway, the postural therapist, who was an outlier, said, I can't be your last hope, because that was what I wanted her to be at the time, because I didn't know how to do it anymore. She said, you have to go and see, well, she didn't say you have to go and see, she said, I don't know, try Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I said, well, what did he do? And she said, well, he healed his back with just meditation. And I said, well, fine. So I ended up going online and looking at his progressive workshop. And it was easy to do because I could only lay in bed anyway. So I laid in bed and I listened to that and I started meditating. And over the next 6 months, I was able to get out of bed and get my rear to a full workshop, which was a big deal. I actually had to drive. I drove all the way down to Indian Wells, California, which was like a 13-hour drive for me. And it was super intense. The week long was super intense. Fast forward to now, and y'all know what I'm up to. Well, or you might, if you've been following me. I'm quite physically active. I've regained all of my strength and wellness, and I feel more vibrant and alive and capable than ever, which is awesome. And I have continued following Dr. Joe Dispenza not only by meditating regularly with his meditations, but also by going to his advanced follow-up retreats, which are like a 3.5-day long retreat. And I just got back from one in Nashville, and I'm so excited. So I thought I'd share with you some of the highlights of that retreat. First of all, I want to say that my experience of coming out of that kind of a completely debilitating physical situation and even mental situations is not unusual at all for people who are showing up there. And people follow him like mad, in part because they see what a massive overhaul they're doing, not only on their body, but on their life. There's this sense that they're not just meditating to heal anymore. They're actually meditating to change into the person that they feel best in, the person that they feel like is most in alignment. And that's what I discovered through my process of healing, that it wasn't just about my body. What I discovered was that I had a lot of thought patterns that were not helping me. And of course, those thought patterns lead to patterns of feeling. And I was feeling scared, anxious, uncomfortable, confused, like a lot of the time. And so in starting this practice, I changed those thought patterns as well. And now I devote most of my joy practice to supporting people in changing those thought patterns too, with some of the exercises and practices that I've developed to go along with Dr. Joe's work, and some of them very much inspired by Dr. Joe's work as well. And so I so enjoyed my time in Nashville at this advanced follow-up. I saw people, there were 2 different people that were in wheelchairs sitting next to me. I always sit next to the edge of the aisle, and so it was super awesome to get to talk with them and hear about their journey. And at the end, they were both out with a walker or even without a walker for a few steps. And that's a huge part of why we're there. We have 1,500 people. I'm going to make a guess. It's usually between 1,200 and 2,000. And so supportive. I'll tell you what, if you're going to be in a conference with that many people, you want to make sure that they're the kind of people who are focused on seeing the best in everything. And trusting that everything's happening for a reason, and in having the best time ever. And so super, super fun group of folks to hang out with. I mean, in addition, at meals, I heard amazing stories. This one woman whose body was experiencing cancer, breast cancer, one of the tumors in her, or cysts in her breast, had diminished from like a 7-centimeter tumor all the way down to almost nothing. She noticed in the shower that morning before she came, and she was telling me about this. Just amazing. The Healey's had 3 different Healey situations, and I won't go into detail about exactly how that works, probably because I can see already that this video is going to get long. My roommate had some wonderful stories of her own too, and I'm hoping that she'll share them as a testimonial. In fact, that's something I would like to do at some point as well. At any rate, very exciting and inspiring work that people are doing. I want to share with you a little bit about the logistics of this, because it sounds amazing, but it's not like we just like sit around and chat all day. In fact, there's very little time to chat because we are literally going from meditation to meditation. We get up in the morning. Well, we start the meditations between 4 and 6, typically, and that means that we are arriving a half an hour early. So if we're going to come for a 4 o'clock meditation, which this time he actually extended until 5 because he could probably see the looks on our faces, but I don't know. I think the man has no sympathy, and I think it's actually by design. At any rate, we get there 30 minutes in advance, and so that we can jockey for position in getting the our space, because we not only do we sit and meditate, but at the end of most meditations we lay down. And so, I mean, you wouldn't believe the number of people who are willing to lay on the floor on a towel. I mean, people of all ages, going up to, you know, your great grandmother. They're all out there laying on a towel. I personally, well, I mean, you know, people upgrade and do different things. I personally bring my backpacking mattress and my ultralight little blanket. Super stoked about that. At any rate, so because you have the sitting up and laying down portion, people come early to try to grab a spot. And I jokingly say jogging in position because I haven't actually seen anybody get hurt doing this. Actually, the biggest place where there's a lot of movement is the dance floor. And before any meditation starts, at the end of every break, there is a huge group of people up front dancing to the most high vibe music. Oh my gosh, it is so much fun. So anyway, we meditate for hours. Sometimes, I think the longest one is, you might run a pineal gland meditation at that 4 a.m. and it might go 3.5, 4 hours. Most of them top out at 2.5 or 2, but it's definitely enough time to really get in and get deep. And I love it. I love it, love it, love it. The vibration in that room is amazing with so many people meditating at the same time. There's a quality of group coherence that really supports focus and that deep experience individually. And he is really particular about asking each person to bring their very best for that reason, because if each one of us brings our best, then of course that group coherence is going to be higher, and that's going to support everyone. So I completely agree with that, and I have noticed that in the Joy Collective. I ask people to, you know, really be there fully present when they come for that reason. In fact, I'll get to it in a second, but there was a note that I tagged in conjunction with that he said, so that's the logistics. We break for breakfast, we break for lunch. We usually leave at night, sometime between 7 and 8 at night, and then there's more. He'll put you to sleep with like this broadcast meditation through, and it's live at between 10 and 10:30. He starts that, and then can you imagine? We're up like at like 2:30 in the morning a lot of times. Okay. Top secret. I actually sometimes don't do those 10:30 meditations because, you know, I want to give myself something to grow into, right? There's going to be a more coherent me sometime in the next year or two. I want to leave room for that. I actually, at the moment, what I was leaving room for is sleep. I mean, honestly, I show up to these pretty sleepy, and because the flight and everything, and I don't want to go about that. I trust that it's all for a reason, and actually, that really relates to one of my favorite quotes from the workshop. He said that there's a balance between intent and surrender. Too much intention and we're trying, right? We're like, oh, I'm going to go after it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get deeper than I've ever been before. I want to have that mystical experience. I want to have that healing, whatever it is, that strong intention. If we push too hard, then we're trying and we lose that detachment that's really needed in order to not have the resistance come up inside of us. And yet, too much surrender and you give up. So when I think about me showing up after being on the airplane, I'm so tired that I have a lot of surrender in me. I'm like, oh, and I just have to be careful not to surrender into delta brainwave state, which is sleep. So it's that balance between intention, so that we don't try too hard, and yet we are seeking to find our edge, and surrender, so that we don't give up, and yet we do let go enough to be able to let go of our resistance to find that next place. One of my other, this is getting really long, so I'll just give you another couple of highlights. One of my others is, this was a new thing that I heard him say this time that I haven't heard him say before. He was talking a lot about energy as information. So before I would hear him say the word energy, and now I was hearing him say information. So he said, who am I? Am I a physical body processing information through the senses? Or am I immaterial information organizing itself into form, into a body? It's pretty amazing to think about the energetic content of our being, because even matter is energy on its lowest vibration. And yet, since we are both information and matter being the other end of that continuum, information being more permanent than matter, and also, if we're going to create change, creating change in our energy really affects our matter, which is so apparent in the healings, and it's so apparent in my day-to-day life. Because if I am in a place where I'm tuning to my most joyful self, then I'm going to see the best in myself and in other people. And of course, the world is going to respond to me in kind. And that has been the premise for my joy in the world, for my joy in myself. And man, it was amazing seeing people get up and talk about their healings, what they've been through physically, mentally, how they came out of it. And I just really encourage you to go and check it out for himself. If you have not already looked at some of Joe Dispenza's work, you can find him online. I'll put some links to some of my faves in the description. And you could also check out the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. That's a great place to start. And if you can get the Progressive Workshop online, that's fantastic. Or if you sign up for a week-long retreat, the Progressive Workshop, at least true a couple of years ago, came along with that for free. And so that you could do it as a precursor, although you want to know what you're getting into. I mean, this is where Dispenza's work is really where quantum physics meets meditation meets neuroscience. And oh man, some of my notes were just like, whoa, so complex getting into it. And yet it makes sense, because when we have more understanding of why it works, then how to do it becomes more possible, he says. And I think that that's true. And we also assign meaning to our meditations. And when you assign meaning to anything, then it supports the change happening that you want. But when we assign meaning to our meditations, knowing that that is making the change, then we invest more in them. And we look for the change, we see it. And of course, when we see it, we go back and are willing to sit again early in the morning, late at night, whenever we get a chance to make that part of our routine of changing our thoughts and changing ourselves from the inside, from our autonomic nervous system. And one of the things that I want to end on is that I really, really loved hearing people talk about the ways that they stay fresh between the Dr. Joe events that they attend. Some of them attend like 30, 40, 50. It's crazy. They are like groupies. And I can't even say they, because I'm on my 4th. And that was, and I'm planning my 5th and 6th. So I've never done anything like this in my life that I haven't even gone to the same rock concert twice, I think. Anyway, what I heard people discussing was, how do you find that support to stay fresh in between? And of course, if you're going to fewer of them, then you really have a lot of support to seek. And there are a number of groups who are practicing meditation that can be joined, coherence healing groups. Here in Eugene, we have a group of people who practice Dr. Joe's meditations once a week, which is fantastic. And the qualifier is that you have to have been through an advanced follow-up retreat. No, I'm sorry, a week long. And I'm sure that's true for a number of other groups you can find on Meetup or whatever. And the thing that I felt really immensely grateful for when I was there and I was hearing people talk about that is that I am part of such a profoundly amazing group to me, the Joy Collective. And if you haven't taken a look at my Core Alignment with Joy series, I recommend it highly. We'll be starting a live one in January, and you can register for that now and get the time frame that best suits your schedule. The people who have done that, 80% of the people who did that first official Core Joy series are still in the Joy Collective. We meet weekly, and they have seen profound changes in their lives. And I'm so grateful for the energy boost that I get every week and the accountability from coming back to that group and sharing and hearing all of the shares of how our lives are transforming. So if you are a Dr. Joe student, I highly recommend that you find a community, whether it's in person or online. Our Joy Collective community is online. We have folks from all over the world meeting on Zoom at a couple different time frames a week. So I would love to hear more from you. If you are a Dr. Joe follower, leave me a comment. If you're not, leave me a comment. You're looking for some transformation in your life. And also like and share. My goodness, that makes a big difference in whether these videos get seen and get out to the rest of the world. So I'm so appreciative if you take the time to like and or share this and subscribe. Another great way to support it. Even saving the video is a huge support. So thank you so much. I hope you're having an amazing day, and joy is expanding and unfolding for you in every way. Take care.